Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be talking about Cold Visions by Bladee. And as you can tell by the title, I'm on a roll here. So I'm always trying to figure out some kind of framing device, a way to review or analyze an album that can serve almost like a thesis of an essay, right? I'm a professor. That's what I do. And it just happens to be that while I was reviewing this album, the Kendrick diss track came out, and I came up with the parallel between Drake and Trump. And if you haven't seen that video, you should check it out. So I promise you that the provocative title to this came before then. And part of the reason that I have this title, and part of the reason why I cover so much of Bladee's music, is that I like the music, but also I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the way that it sounds, by the way that it's made, and more specifically, the way that it's consumed, and the fact that it is consumed with such fervor. So in a couple other reviews that I've done of the Drain Gang, of this group of Swedish musicians, the Sad Boys, the Drain Gang, whatever all that is, Swedish rap, I don't even know what to call it all, so I'll just call it the Sad Drain Gang Boys. I've tried to be like a guide to people my age, people in their 40s, people in their 50s, who might have kids who are, as the kids say, drained, who are into this kind of music. And as I was preparing this review, I was like, something seems familiar here. I'm reviewing an artist who has very, very devoted fans, and they've released a lot of music in very recent time frame. And they released an album that has 30 songs on it. Just right away, I'm taken right there to Taylor Swift town. It's hard. It's hard being a music critic, being a part-time music critic. It's hard. All these albums are so long, and I don't want to just review. I'm not going to give you a grade. I'm not going to give you a number. I'm going to give you analysis. I want to give this album, this is by far my favorite Bladee album I've heard. I really, really enjoy it. I enjoy its length clip. I enjoy all of it. I really do. I feel like I really, really get it. But at the same time, Jesus Christ, 30 songs? Come on. He just released an album with Young Lean like 3 weeks ago. I don't even know how long it was. So I just sort of, just in my head, I'm just thinking, wow, I just got Taylor Swifted by Bladee. I have to figure out another way to contextualize this great artist, another kind of hook, another kind of framing device, because I want to review it, because I like it and it's important, but also I want to keep it fresh. And then it just hit me. He is Taylor Swift. He is Taylor Swift for internet boys. Now, when I say internet boys, I'm not making fun. I'm not teasing. It sounds like I am. But I'm basically an internet man, okay? I'm basically an internet boy. I'm not really. I am lucky enough that the internet did not reach its current form until I was already well into adulthood. But all of the traits that go into what I am saying are an internet boy would have applied to me when I was younger. And I'm talking about mostly white, but not entirely white, mostly middle class, but not all middle class, mostly boys, but not all boys, who spend a lot of time on the internet, who have a very enthusiastic attitude towards the things that they like, who feel a very close connection, sometimes a kind of parasocial connection to the things that they like, revolving around a lot of themes of alienation and sadness and a general crisis of masculinity. Okay? So that's the internet boy that I'm describing. But it all works. It all works that Bladee is Taylor Swift for internet boys in both form and content. Now, in form, the form that the music takes, just too much. Too many tracks. Too much. Too repetitive. And with the same producer, Jack Antonoff, Filthy produced too many tracks on this Bladee album. And Jack Antonoff produced too many tracks for Taylor Swift. It's a general feeling that we're getting, where we have the same soundscape, the same feeling, and it can just be oppressive to somebody who's not in, somebody who hasn't bought in, someone who's not down with the clown. You're not into it. But if you are down, now first of all, it's not all produced by one Ilthy. It's not all produced by Filthy. It's also some produced by Lucy and by other members of the Drain Gang. In the same way that Tortured Poets Department is not entirely produced by Jack Antonoff. There's a little bit in there by Aaron Dessner. But a thing happened when I made my Taylor Swift reviews. And if you are mad at me for comparing Bladee to Taylor Swift, first of all, it's a compliment. Taylor Swift is a great artist, and so is Bladee. There might be some misogyny in your dislike of Taylor Swift. I'm not saying there definitely is. You might just dislike her music. She might be too ubiquitous. But you might just want to check in with yourself. If you have some women in your life or some feminists in your life, maybe just check in with them. Just, that might be why you dislike this comparison. But the thing that most people said on my comments in those videos were, this is for us. This is for Swifties. This isn't for you. This is for everybody. I mean, this is for the Swifties. It is not, I don't edit my videos either, so I just completely flubbed that line. This is not for everybody. This is just for those who love it. So if you love Bladee, if you love the soundscape that he creates, if you love the atmosphere, if you love his interaction with Filthy that makes you realize, oh man, all that credit that I was giving to Playboi Carti, probably some of it should go to Bladee. It's a weird thing to say, but let's be honest. That's how it seems, because I guess Filthy and Bladee worked before, and it's very interesting. If you think it's too long, it's just not for you. If you think it's too repetitive, it's just not for you. If it's for you, it is super long, and it is super edifying. So that's the form that it takes, the way that it's very similar to the Tortured Poets department. What about the content? Well, it's a lot about the emotional trouble of living a life of fame. Yet despite the fact we have a billionaire, or in this case a millionaire, describing a life that is apparently one that one aspires to, despite the fact that you've reached this level of fame, you're still sad, you're still upset, you're still heartbroken. And both Bladee and Taylor Swift managed to communicate their ennui, their malaise, their whole bunch of other French words for sad. They're able to communicate their sadness in a way that is relatable to many people. Now, if you're just going to fold your arms in hate and say that you can't listen to a millionaire or can't listen to a billionaire, I understand. I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out because a lot of these millionaires and billionaires happen to have all this money because they're so good at communicating the human experience, not for other reasons. So they can communicate their internal struggle and sometimes their external struggle in a way which really helps. It serves, it edifies the audience. They hear it and they see themselves, or if they don't see themselves, they relate to these emotions themselves, and they're able to experience some form of catharsis and release by listening to it. This album is a tortured poet. Now, unlike Tortured Poets Department, which is an ironic sentiment, she's saying something she's making fun of herself with the title. This is really just a poet who is very tortured, who's really going through it, is really discussing it. I think a lot of this has to do with the internet boy, and the internet boy being on this front line of the crisis of masculinity. And the crisis of masculinity is not that we need to be out there making fires and hunting with rocks and eating raw meat or eggs, or what's that one that guy did? The guy did steroids. What was the thing that he ate all the time? There's some guy out there, the liver king. Right, the steroid king, right? Like, I'm not saying that. There's a crisis of what do I do with what institutional power I still have? What do I do with the fact that I've lost some institutional power? What do I do with all these hours in the day? What is my worth? What is my value? This has been a question centuries. But it's taking this particular form here. And what ends up, and this is why this is useful, if you are a parent, don't ignore your kids. And hey, if you're a young person right now, you don't think that you're above this. One of the best things you can do when you're a parent is when your kids tell you they like something, just go, cool, what do you like about it? You did it. You just good parented. That's all you got to do. That's how I learned how to play Minecraft. Up until I built a stupid moat around my house and it got flooded. It doesn't look good anymore. I had this whole, each wall had a different special mineral. It was super cool. I was super into it. Anyways. So if you're trying to figure out, what does it mean if your kid likes Bladee? Maybe they like good music, but there is a real nowness to it. the crisis of masculinity is in the music. What are the figures that he simultaneously compares himself to? Batman, Bane, and the Joker, all at the same time, which is fascinating. I'm a big Batman fan. You see some Batman paraphernalia behind me. It's an interesting idea because in all cases, it's different ways of having emotional difficulties and ways of acting out your anger and your confusion and your sense of alienation. All three of those cases. And it's all built into this general image of coldness. This is an album about emotional coldness. And at times, that feeling inward, that feeling of inward, that sort of self-hatred, externalizes and becomes general misanthropy. Side note. Misanthropy comes from Greek, mis, which is a shorthand for hate, and anthropy, which means people, right? That's why misogyny, like hate people. So the opposite is the prefix phil. So there's mis and there's phil. Phil means love. That's why philosophy is the love of science, right? What does it say about our society? That a philanthropist is the opposite of a misanthropist. So we're supposed to believe that somebody who has $10 billion is a philanthropist because they give $100 million. We live in a messed up society. A misanthropist is someone who hates all of society and all people. And so he goes in between sort of the self-hatred mode, this alienation mode, this kind of like distance, this remove, this cold, like it's a value that is put onto men, the need to be cold, to be stoic, to put up with pain, but he's desiring for warmth. He's really desiring for warmth, but he's not finding it. And the places where he's looking for it, he's not finding. He's looking in the wrong places. He's looking in drugs. Drugs, not the place to look. You just get colder. Is it too long? No. I'm going to skip a couple songs just because I actually have an annoying ass chairs and directors meeting to get to in half an hour. And I don't know if you know this, I tend to talk on these things. I really should edit. But it does have 2 outros. It totally Return of the King's you. It has one song that's called outro and then another song that's called outro. But who am I to criticize someone for taking too long? I have to go get my water. If you like this video, then smash the like bucket. Subscribe. Oh, I said that right into the mic. I'm sorry. I apologize. I leaned right over the mic. Subscribe. If you like what you see and you type in the letters AVAA into the comments, that means awesome video as always, or ass video as always if you want to make fun of me, and I'll always heart those videos. I go back. I read every comment. My Patreons, sometimes, I ask them if they'd like a shout out. It doesn't matter if they're a high spender, low spender. Jack Dyson, Harlan T, and Karsick, who says that Bladee is his favorite artist ever, all wanted shout outs. You want a shout out too? Go on my Patreon. I also am sponsored by, if you can, probably go to a real therapist. So on the internet, there's a lot of advertisements for teletherapy, right? And if you are having a lot of the problems that Bladee describes, it's terrible, okay? It sucks being young. As you get older, it's better, especially if you get older and go to therapy, you'll be doing better, okay? That's my promise to you. It's my promise to you as an old guy who's living a pretty good life and knows that being young sucks. It's not great. It's not great. It sucks. You just got to get through it. But if you have any kind of health insurance, then you probably have access to an actual in-person therapist. I know that the teletherapists and the internet therapists are very well advertised. Realistically, the data is not good. It's not great. It's better if you can form a better, more stable relationship. So I highly suggest that you do that. Okay? I'm not saying the other place is bad, but I'm saying in-person therapy, you can probably do it. You can probably do it if you have health insurance. And even if you're just at college, just go to the health center. There's people there. You might be on a waiting list, but just get some help, Because this is the cool thing. You can listen to Bladee and like Bladee's music and not feel like Bladee. It's the coolest thing. Because when he says, like, I feel like I'm nothing, all that, I remember what it feels like, but I feel awesome now. Okay, speaking of being the king of nothing, let's talk about my stand, my example song from the album. If you just want like one little slice of this album to see what it's about, I pick King Nothing, produced by Filthy. Filthy. This was the song where this is where, and you see my notes. I'm looking at my notes. I'm not going to show them to you. But it says, if you think it's too long because it's not for you. It's for us. It's for the Drain Gang like me. Layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of high synths and then bumping bass and all these hard noises. And repeating over and over again. Cold Vision. This Cold Vision he keeps on coming back to. Hail King Nothing. Dirty Boys. They love it on the track. I'm trauma dumping. I've been playing out a way that's so disgusting. This is who he is. He's the king of nothing. He really is helping to fill that role that was left by artists like Kurt Cobain. Okay, Kurt Cobain spoke for the disaffected people my age. Who is speaking for the disaffected people my age? Who is that? It's probably this guy. You know? And then actually a pretty good rap verse here. I say that because he's not like a rapper. You know? Like I wouldn't say his bars are like... I mean, first of all, he's rapping in his second language. Second of all, like, he's kind of goofy. Like you hear his accent and he's... It's a lot more about the emotions he's able to communicate than the rhymes he's able to execute, you know? Stop talking like you know me. We're not friends. Just send the money. We remain the same. It's funny. I'm the one, you know, that dummy. Mr. Paid, make away US dollars from God's country. Mr. Always up to something. Hit the hole in one for one thing. Felt so scummy. Drain gang. Keep this faucet running. Purple money. Easter bunny. I'm in Philly. Always sunny. Like I'm filthy. So Filthy's from Philadelphia. That's a fun reference. That's just a fun thing, but it doesn't really matter. The voice doesn't really matter because it's just one of these layers, okay? Sedimentary, okay? We're talking all different, going back to the Mesolithic era. The Mesolithic era, is that an era or is that a thing that you get sick from? Okay, I don't care. There's like a sound of like this car going. There's even like the sound of like when an anime sword comes out and it goes ching. You know, all this weirdness going on in the back and then just talking about trauma dumping and trauma dumping. It's all the emotions. It's the disaffection. It's the layers. It's the sound. It's the very, 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 very now. Hey, you want a time capsule of 2024? Put this song in a shoebox and bury it in your backyard. Okay? Do it. I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. Opens up with Paranoia intro, produced by Filthy. Not many brain cells left. And then we have The Laugh. The Laugh from Vincent Price in the middle of Thriller, but I associate it with the song The Dragon by Biz Markie. If you've never listened to the song The Dragon by Biz Markie, please do. It's a great song about having bad breath and smelling bad. The Biz is all the way up there, by the way. I have a little Biz toy up there. Great blown out bass, doubled voice, it modulates all into this great theme, you know, like I'm going to go track by track, but I don't really need to because it just has this whole vibe. And then we get Wadrainer, again produced by Filthy, now kind of like skitchy sounds, can't seem to get right, altering voice, C'est la vie, talks about, hey, speaking some French, it means it's life. That's that real sense of resignation. There's a lot of good videos about white existential dread. I swear to God I mentioned him every video, but FD Signifier's video on Bo Burnham is a particularly good one, and also his video on Falling Down. He does a really good job of actually describing white existential dread, especially white male existential dread, and the way that it's expressed. And I think this would fit into that canon. And I am not goofing, okay? The Batman and Joker stuff up there, that's from me. That's my collection. I'm not above a drainer. I'm just a little old, you know? Sleep is the one time I'm happy. I'm the one who's sick, but bless you. Tortured poet. Young Sherman, very loud, crazy bass. I'm in Miami doing Tai Chi. Nice piano part. And then says me and Young Sherman working out and getting tight. So, you know, my son graduated, right? So he's off to college. So I don't see him every day anymore, which sucks. But like when, you know, I saw him and his friends and they all went through a workout phase and they're all trying to figure it out. And I had a whole discussion. Actually, a friend of mine's kid was visiting, trying to check out local colleges. And we were talking about the manosphere and we were talking about all these images. And the thing that sucks, you can't understand this. If you're an old man like me, you're a middle-aged man like me in your 40s, you can't understand that even if your kids are smart enough to resist believing in all of the toxic manosphere stuff, They're still absorbing it. It's still a part of their atmosphere. They know what the word grind set means. They know what the word mewing means and what the word looks maxing means. They know what it means. They grew up with Paul Rudd taking his shirt off in Ant-Man. That's their reality. Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd. The Sex Panther guy. That's their reality. Don't laugh at them. It sucks. Paul Rudd. Shame on you. If I ever meet Paul Rudd, I'm not going to say, you're the best. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm going to say, dude, you couldn't have been the flabby Marvel hero. Is that it? You couldn't stand your ground? You had to get that bag? Sell out. Flatline. I do love Paul Rudd. Flatline is the next track. Cool. This is not produced by Filthy. Kind of neat tricks. More singing. He just goes in between singing and rapping all the time. It doesn't even matter. Like, that's the thing. When you first listen to Bladee, when I first listened to Bladee, I'm like, what's going on? When's the rapping? When's he going to rap more? But then the more I get into it, I don't even notice. I'd rather die than see you cry. Oh. There's lots of themes of death here. Ambulances, flatlining. 1 Second. This one's featuring Young Lean. I don't know why it wasn't on Psychos, the last album. Another Filthy one. Where You At? Kind of like a party song, you know? It's sort of like, hey, Batman has a Robin. This is great. But it's short-lived. We then get to Sad Meal. Remember how I said this is like Tortured Poets Department, right? Remember how I said Tortured Poets Department was kind of ironic. It's sort of making fun of the idea of there being a department of tortured poets, right? Because it doesn't make sense, right? A department is an administrative unit, and a tortured poet is this kind of romantic ideal, so intentionally doing that. This song, awesome, sketchy sounds, booming bass, layers of voice. Again, much like the same way that the Tortured Poets Department was in the same emotional and auditory register and atmosphere for most of it. It's there. But he says, at McDonald's, I get a sad meal. Oh, you get a sad meal at McDonald's instead of a Happy Meal. Do you get it? Do I have any Happy Meal toys here? Yeah. Hey, look. It's a young Sherman working out. That was a Happy Meal toy. What other Happy Meal toys I got here? Oh yeah, check this one out. I got Albert Einstein Happy Meal toy. But he gets a sad meal toy. I think he's having fun with it. I think there is a degree to which he is aware of the silliness of this excess of emotion. He sort of keeps himself in check and maybe is winking at the camera. Next track is called Fun Fact, featuring Young Lean again produced by For One Ilthy. That joke, by the way, never gets old to me. It never gets old for One Ilthy. He grows in sound and emphasis, great bass and ticky hi-hat, gets louder and cooler. They mention Delaware. That's pretty cool. And this is the one that has that reference to Batman. So he mentions Bane earlier in the song about getting out of a hole, and then later he mentions Batman and Bane in his mask. The Dark Knight Rises, by the way, is a great movie, and I think everyone's crazy for thinking it's not good. I think it's a great movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I think it's a great movie. I think it's as good as The Dark Knight. I think Bane is a more interesting villain than the Joker. I just do. I think he's great. I really love that movie. I know you want to be us, but we are just some weirdos. This is the tricky thing. So they say that, and it just makes you want to be like them more. Because this seems like they're being self-effacing, but they're being cool. And that's just the truth. They are just some weirdos. That's why they're so relatable. Because it could be me. If I was in Sweden and I was 20 years younger, maybe I'd be a drain gang boy, sad boy, right? Maybe. Just a weirdo. Only God is made perfect. Part of the Bladee appeal is he'll just make these random sort of religious statements and imagery that isn't quite clear why it's here or what it exactly means. I truly am the Joker. All these clowns, man. I truly am the Joker. You know? Cool singing. The outro of this might be the most interesting part of the whole project. I really enjoy the outro here. Don't Want to Hang Out. We are now heading into the Misanthrope era. Okay, so there's 3 songs in a row here. Don't Want to Hang Out, I Don't Like People, Interlude, and I Don't Like People. So I want to talk about Misanthropy. And in particular, I want to talk about Molière's play, The Misanthrope, Le Misanthrope. This is a fascinating thing because in the modern day, misanthropes are seen as being kind of heroic, cool outsiders. And Alceste is like the original cool outsider. He is somebody who just absolutely hates everybody. Okay? I'm gonna quote some here from the first act where he lays out his whole life. Okay? This is what, 16... When was this made? I should know this. How do I not have it here? 1666. Ooh, there you go. Quand je vois vivre entre eux les hommes comme ils font, je trouve partout que lâche flatterie, qu'injustice, qu'intérêt, trahison, fourberie, je n'ai plus y tenir, j'enrage mon dessein et rompre et viser tout le genre humain. So he's like, all I see around me is just people who are just flattering each other. And all they're doing is acting in self-interest. And I can't hold it. And I get so angry. And my goal is to destroy the veneer, the fake facade of human existence. Later, when someone asks, do you just feel this feeling for some people? This hatred for some people? Alceste responds, no. Elle est générale et jaillit tous les hommes, les uns parce qu'ils sont méchants et malfaisants, et les autres pour être aux méchants complaisants. No, my hatred is general. I hate all human beings. Some because they're evil, others because they are complicit towards evil. And he just goes on and on and on. He talks about fleeing to the desert. He talks about how he just wants to be distinguished. When he sees how people live, he just cannot bear it. He just finds them so repulsive and terrible. The thing is, he's a villain. He's not the good guy of the play. In the 18th century, things got different, and we started looking up to heroes like this, particularly with the Romantic movement, largely inspired by Rousseau. Eventually, characters like Le Misanthrope, the person who hates everybody, got translated into English as the slave of truth. Because there's some kind of belief that if you are real, if you are honest and true, then you must hate humanity. Okay? Great play. Super fun. So this is what's happened. In reality, when you hate the world, it's just that you kind of hate yourself. And so he's kind of becoming like a very Smithsy-like character, a very Morrissey-like character. Inspirational sounds here. He's barely even opening his mouth when he rhymes. It's a different voice. I'm surrounded by people I don't like. I don't want to hang out. The voice cuts out. And then I don't like people. I don't like people. I don't like people. It's just a full misanthropist anthem. And it's hard because much like the Joker, we want to sort of like look into it and look up to it. But in reality, it's sad. In reality, you need to, if you can, if possible, this is another message to you drainers and young people, if possible, create networks of people with whom you can connect. The glory and the joy of life comes from your obligation to other people. That's where happiness comes. Not obligations to systems, obligations to people. Okay? That's where your joy will come from. When you have people who depend on you and people who you depend upon, that's where happiness comes from. You know? But it's interesting because he's saying I don't like people, and also people aren't necessarily, this is the life of being famous, right? So he's also constantly surrounded by people trying to get something from him because he's famous. And it's very funny. And also, I just like this song. I don't like people. I don't like people. I really don't like people. I really, really, really don't like people. You know, he's just really going on about it. But I think it's important. And I'm not clowning on it. Because I think he's expressing something. That's the way I used to feel. I used to feel like I didn't like people. I used to feel like society sucks, man. Can't deal with these people. It's so fake all the time. I'm like the only real one out there. Oh my God. The thing that's great about the 17th century is they kind of see right through that. A lot of the poets and philosophers. And they really get to the point that if you feel that society sucks, it usually means that you think you suck and you just want to prove that you're worthwhile. That you have any worth at all. It's never about them. It's always about you. I did it. I snuck in a little bit of French, a little bit of what I actually studied. I did it. End of the road, boys. Just more beautiful sounds here. Kind of euphoric. It kind of lifts you up. The next track is with Skrillex. I don't like it. I'm going to skip the song. Don't do drugs. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bladee. I've been trying to tell everyone on here not to do drugs. I understand. It's fun. For some people, it seems fun. I don't know. I've never done drugs. But I just like how honestly he points out the ending. I'm having issues with the drugs. It really isn't fun. It'll have you dumb, have you fucked up, make your reality pale, feel like every ship has sailed. He's someone who's done a lot of drugs. He's someone who's promoted doing drugs, but he's also just explaining that that's no way out. That's the problem. That's the problem. If you think you're a piece of shit, there's no way out except for learning that you're not. That's the only way. That's the only way. Because you're not a piece of shit. I guarantee you you're not. I guarantee you you're not a piece of shit. You're really not. You may feel like it a lot, but you're really not. But you probably have to go to that therapist I was talking about in the beginning. You go to the therapist, they sit around, they explain to you how all these things worked out, and then you go, oh, okay, I'm not a piece of shit. And then you're okay. But the reason that drugs and alcohol and sports gambling and all that stuff works is because they can give you the illusion that for 10 seconds you don't feel that self-hatred. And then you get hooked on that feeling, and then the feeling goes away. And actually the feeling comes back. The relief goes away, but the feeling comes back, and it comes back stronger. And now you have a dependence, and now the spiral gets worse, and you hate yourself more, which is what he raps about. So, props to Bladee. Hey kids, don't do drugs. Lowe's partly, remember how he said it was like Morrissey? He's straight up quoting the Smiths here. Hang the DJ. It says nothing to me about my life. I love the Smiths. The song Panic is also a little bit racially coded in a way, which is a little bit problematic. Not necessarily full-on racist, but adjacent. Still, it's a fascinating idea, and it goes back to the misanthropy, to the feeling of just like, whatever's popular now, whatever the kids are listening to, I can't relate to it. I am just too much. So cold interlude, nice, multiple sounds, message to myself. I send a message to myself, man, you stupid bitch, get well. He's this close. This is good. Leaving a message to himself. It's good. Get well. Don't need to call yourself that. You don't need to call yourself that. Terrible Excellence. This one's produced by Filthy and White Armor, who produced all of, was it Spider? Man, these guys are really good. Musically, they really are. It's easy to like overlook it, and it's hard to like compare it to, I don't know, Schoolboy Q. Okay, it's hard to compare to Onyx. All right, it's hard to compare to a lot of other rap music. It's really nice, and this song in particular is actually pretty tough. Like, it's really nice rumbling bass. I'm hooked on the bad feelings. I smile, but I'm still grieving. Man, the other day I was looking on HBO. I was going to watch an episode of The Sopranos I hadn't seen in a while. Soprano home movies. And then a commercial for the NBA playoffs came up, and I just saw it and I went away. And then for the rest of the evening, I was just a little bitch. I was such an asshole. So, I shouldn't use gendered insults, but I was just such an asshole to my wife in particular. And I wasn't being mean to her, but I was just really distant. She's like, "Is it something I said?" And I was like, "Probably not," because I didn't know what it was. I used to watch the NBA playoffs with my dad, and now I see the Celtics in the playoffs, and I just start crying. Or I don't cry, and then I'm grieving. And so right now I'm smiling, but I'm grieving because I still miss my dad. Been a year, still miss him. By the way, if you ever feel sad, that's because you're supposed to. I'm sorry. I'm being super helpful to you today. If you are ever sad, don't ever think I should not be sad, because your feelings don't care about what you should or should not be feeling. It is a useless thought. I shouldn't feel useless. I shouldn't feel stupid. I shouldn't just shoot that off into space. I grieve my father. So what? So what? I do. I see Jaylen Brown. I burst into tears. I'm just glad that my dad didn't have to see us trade away Marcus Smart. Red Cross, more kind of badass stuff. Low rumble. Does this sort of sound popularized by Old Dirty Bastard. More horror noises. And then we get to the song Lucky Luke. All right, now this just made me laugh because I knew someone once. Turned into a little bit of a difficult relationship there, but who was a very high-level skater. And she tells the story of a dance couple that came to America, and they did a whole routine dressed up as cowboys to the song Lucky Luke. And it ended, and there was no applause, because Americans don't know what the hell Lucky Luke is. Lucky Luke is this super awesome comic, okay? Belgian, I believe. Is it Belgian or French? It's a Franco-Belgian comic book in their style. And beautifully drawn. Like, if you like Asterix, if you like Tintin, it's that similar level of quality. But it's really the way that Americans are understood. like this weird Franco-Belgian interpretation of the American West. And this is his famous image, l'homme qui tire plus vite que son ombre, the man who shoots faster than his shadow. So that's what this song's about. So listen, I'm going to teach you about Molière, and I'll also teach you about Lucky Luke. Kind of a European ringtone rap feel to this here. More very relatable stuff. My boy was never into sports. This is for all the internet boys. The river flows in you. Just, I'm the king of nothing matters. This leans up to the next song. A lot of this album is very long, but the songs are connected. You know, we got King Nothing, which I already discussed, then Bad for Business. I'm going to skip that one. It's fine, but I actually really don't like that one. Other Side, Out of Fear, a Child is Born, a beautiful lyric. And then right after he says this, panic that became the norm, out of fear, a child is born. And then he starts singing, only come once in a storm, faith in stars I can't afford. Like the way he starts singing, it's great. It has that emotional punch. Can we let boys cry, right? We can let boys cry, right? You can cry. Go for it. Go for it. You hear that? You feel that way? You feel that you were born out of fear? You can cry. Bladee helps you cry. Even if he also says alligator shoes, everything reptile. Next track is normal. I want to skip that one as well. To get to flexing and finessing, more gentle sounds, opens up with let me tell you a story about nobody important or somebody not important. It's just this beautiful image. And then my absolute favorite, the thing I relate to the most, I should do the dishes in the kitchen, but I am lacking the ambition. That's going to get a first ever Professor Skye spin in the office. Okay? That's it, right there. I'll tell you why. My buddy Keith, he was in the band with me. We were in a band, didn't do very well. The best lyrics he ever wrote were the following. I've been standing with my dishes, thinking I should do them, thinking I should call you too. Oh, perfect, perfect slacker Gen Xer lyrics. Standing with the dishes. That's the way Keith described it. Beautiful. Okay? But this feeling of just you can't do anything. This sense of being lost. The 90s are alive. PM2, kind of a whiny voice, more cold visions. Sometimes these death thoughts take my thoughts away from living and I forget I must go back to the start. A lot of this kind of more cosmic themes, these cold visions, cool backward sounds on false. I think I depleted all my serotonin. I took a lot of E. More of this don't do drug stuff. Very important to stay alive. Okay? Don't deaden yourself. Electrify, don't pacify. You know what I'm saying? Next track is called Couldn't End on a Loss. This is where they hug all of they hug all the hobbits in their bed. It's the first end to Return of the King. Great, sweet singing. And then he says, I remember being like 18 thinking I was so fucked up, but I didn't realize I'd become even more fucked up. I'm facing 30, living dirty. It's fucked up. That's the whole thing. This whole video has been a PSA telling you, if you have the ability, try to establish a meaningful relationship with a therapist. Even if you start now and don't get a therapist for another year, start now. Because this is what happens. I didn't get my stuff together till I was like 36. Okay? I was so fucked up. And then that was like 9 years ago. Okay? Just get started. It's all good. A lot of resignation here, you know, just like it is what it is. It's a lot like C'est la vie. There's a lot of resignation on this album. And I think he's really struggling with that. I think this is the thing about Bladee and about all the Drain Boys and Sad Gang and all that is that they managed to be so resigned while also being hopeful. Maybe that's the kind of young kids element to it. And then the album really ends with the elves going off on the boat. I don't know. I hate Return of the King. I like Two Towers. I hate Return of the King because it's so poorly edited. And ends just kind of this nice, gentle, sweet guitar and piano. Cold winter flowers under snow. Is it still living? Cold vision. Yes, yes alone. Summers indefinitely postponed. So these are my Patreons. They help give me money. I don't know if I'll ever actually buy a Bladee album. I sort of think that like the best thing to do with Bladee is listen on streaming. I don't know. But despite the fact this is the longest Bladee album I've heard, despite the fact it took me quite a long time to review, despite the fact I took a break to talk about Kendrick and Drake, I think it's his greatest work, and I feel like I'm finally getting him. And also, Filthy. Man, what a great producer. Okay, and look at that. I get to go off to my chairs and directors meeting. Here's the camera.